lots of use of repetition in this cycle. So, audience, how did you receive them? Did you?
So interesting to, or it was at least for me, so interesting to watch it because we experienced that very similar, scenario. But then you see it on somebody else, and it's so differently. You kind of begin to see how they translated the movement into something different that I would have never thought to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then some things that were really similar, and I was like, oh, I kind of know what that feels like. I played with that a little bit too, so I almost felt like I was almost in their bodies and trying to feel what they were doing. So.
Mm-hmm. And now you've got your breath back. The task, how was it trying to achieve the, or what were you doing? Maybe that's what I should ask you.
I found myself going back to a certain part in the phrase that I enjoyed, a certain quality of the movement, so I tried to embellish that or do it in a different way, or at least that felt different to my body. And then when I kind of would get stuck, I feel like I've been doing this for a while, or how should I change it up, I would go back to a different part of the phrase and then try that out for a while. And then it was kind of hard to engage with the audience, but I found when I was more spatially aware of moving through the space, I found it easier to connect with them.
That's what I felt I saw was, yes, that you're just more aware of the space.
Yeah.
And that in itself formed a relationship. And then it seemed to also form a relationship between the two of you, didn't it? Yeah.
I think the thing that I kept coming back to was just kind of moving forward and not necessarily not thinking, but making quick decisions and trusting my instincts. It's once we finished with the straight phrase, we're just okay, what feels most natural from here? And I don't even remember what I did, but I found it. And then I would just play with it and see what it could become until I felt like I was out of juice. And
you found some very interesting coordination patterns that you were doing that were very elaborate and just.
They were fun. They felt good. And that's how I knew I was on the right track. But once it stopped feeling so productive, then I would just be okay, what works next? And I'd go back to the original, a part of the phrase, and then start doing the same thing with that.
Yeah, and did you notice the relationship that you had between you at times?
I did.
And what was that for you? Did it impact? Did you feel that it influenced you? Did it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's impossible for something like that not to influence you, because it just changes the energy of the space.
Yes.
And the energy of your mind. And whether it's consciously or unconsciously, when you see someone else moving, your brain, your mirror neurons are going off and saying I know how to do that. I know how it feels to do that. And there was one point where I didn't think about it, but I recognized when it happened. She was over here, and she did something with a leg and an arm. And then the next thing I knew, I was doing something similar.
Yeah, I find that
Yeah.
very influence.
Yeah.
So with this idea in mind, continuing this idea then of what it is to create in the same space. So move together, not together, but in the same space, energy, time. Let's go to the first group once more. This time, I'm loosening the task, but at the same time you're accumulating, right? So you know, the supermarket and stuff's in your trolley. And you make choices about, you know, which things you actually take to the checkout, right? Okay, so I'm putting these things in because they matter. But you can't do them, you can't process them all at the same time, because that's just going to take time. But nevertheless, they are all assets. They're all, you know, condiments, or spices that will work for you at given points. So this time, the first group, I'd like you to consider now the space and the relationships that you are having in this space. The influence that one person may have on another, the possibility of borrowing, right? Of literally borrowing, mirroring, affirming, right? So the logic that you started to see, what happens if you allow that logic to manifest. Yeah, so let's try that. Let's stay with the same phrase for a little longer. Actually, let's do it this way. So let's use this.